I didn't grow up in a house, never lived in a house. I was raised by a single mom, and so we lived in an apartment all my life. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and welcome if you have never been here before. My name is Chloe, and on this channel I share tips and a little bit of vlogging, travel, and life updates. And I haven't been on here in a while because my husband and I recently bought our very first house. And we've been busy, to say the least. There's stuff everywhere, so don't let this corner with this little cute tree and plant deceive you. It is like so much that we have to get done, of organizing, making sure that everything has a home, boxes everywhere. So it's been very busy, and I apologize that I haven't been on YouTube in a while. You may have seen the video that I posted a couple weeks ago on the channel that is a tour of our entire house. So that was right before we moved in. We had just got the keys and I did a tour. I wanted to just do an empty house tour. And just like I think realistic empty house tour, just because I feel like so many tours that I search up on YouTube show these big elaborate houses, which is nice and nothing wrong with that. But I feel like that sometimes it's not always relatable to people. And I really like the cozy simplicity and just having a really large backyard. I remember when my husband and I first started looking for houses, we were engaged, and one of the things that he asked me was, would I rather have a big house or would I rather have a really big backyard? And hands down, a really big backyard, because having a big house with a small yard is so common if a person wants to be able to kind of afford it in a way. And then you can't buy out your neighbors. You can't, that'd be difficult to do. But I feel like if you have a small house, and our house isn't even necessarily that small, but I feel like it's something that we can grow into. But if you have more of a simple house, but like a really large yard, you can always build onto the house later. But I feel like it's nice to be able to stretch out and have space and room to do things that you want to do and take things outside. And again, I lived in an apartment for all my life. I said that when I get a house, I want it to be like a house. Like I really want to feel like that I'm in a house. I don't want to still feel like I'm in an apartment and so close to my neighbors where I can hear them, I can smell them. I remember in all of my apartments that I had, the two that I had when I was single, and then the one that my husband and I had together, we could hear the neighbors and we could smell whatever it is that they were smoking, and it would come through the vents. And when we would turn the heat on in the winter, and sometimes the air condition in the summertime, we could smell, the smell in the vents. And to me, smell is worse than noise, because noise I can escape a little bit because I can put earphones in or earplugs in, but the smell is hard to escape. It's just hard to escape that. And opening your windows in the winter time for long periods of time to let in fresh air, it just lets the heat out. And if you have to pay for a heat bill, which thankfully we didn't at our old place, but sometimes that's the case. Like I had when I was single at one of my places, I had to pay for heat and it was just like a waste. So being able to have a large yard and a lot of property and land, and still be close to the neighbors if it's like an emergency or something like that, but not so close to where I can hear them, I can smell them, they're constantly in my face. Like, I just didn't want that because I already had that for 30 plus years. Like, I wanted to be able to spread out and not be elbow to elbow. So in the house tour, I don't show the backyard area, but I do want to make videos about like what we want to do with the backyard. I think I mentioned in some videos before, my husband is an Eagle Scout, so he's very into camping and outdoors types things. We want to have a campfire, we want to have a campsite. There's so many things. Like I want to do a garden. I want to have like a nice fire pit, an area where we can host friends and family. We have fairy lights left over from our wedding that I want to use in the backyard. In addition to that, I want to build a pergola because I want to be able to like hang lights, from the ceiling of the pergola. So many ideas. But in that video, definitely check out the house tour if you haven't checked it out. I think it's a very relatable house tour, and I really want to share tips too on ways to maximize a space. So, for example, we have a mud room that's right off the front door, but realistically, we're not going to be using the front door because the garage is by the back door. And so, using the back door is a very narrow space. Immediately, you see steps that lead to the basement. There's a little bit of a hallway, and then there to the right, there's like what I think the previous owners were using as a pantry. But we took out the shelves and we're going to use it as like an entryway bench with some hooks for coats and some storage for things like hats and gloves, and maybe something like a catch-all where we can have like a little dish to put our sunglasses or wallets or keys or whatever. But we know we do have an area where we can hang the keys. It's like this little key thing that we can nail into or screw into the wall, and we can hang our keys there. But I really want to share things that I feel like are going to be practical tips on how to help people maximize space and how we maximize our space, because I feel like when you Google mudroom or things like that, ideas for mudroom, there's always these pictures of unrealistic houses. Like, everybody doesn't have a house that has this grand, what is it, foyer and all these things. Even though our house actually does have a very nice foyer when you walk in the front entrance, and does have a mudroom to the right, but it's just not something practically that we would use because, again, our garage is in a different location. It's at the back door. So sharing things like that, like we eventually want to take the mudroom down to the basement, because as soon as you walk into the back door, the basement steps are like right there. So just different things that I'll be sharing updates about, and I'm hoping that they also are a blessing and helpful to somebody else who also has a home that doesn't look like what we always see on Pinterest. You know what I'm saying? So, but we can still make it look like Pinterest, but maybe the layout is a little bit different. And everything isn't always like an open floor plan. Our home is a more of a closed floor plan. Although the living room flows into the dining room, the kitchen is closed off and it is a separate room. So just sharing on how something like that can be made very functional, very beautiful, very nice to meet your aesthetic, expectations. So, because I know for me, I'm big on not only decor, but I mentioned like functionality, and also big on just being happy in the space that I'm in. And so I want to share like realistic home things, home DIY projects. And when I say on a budget, y'all, I mean on a budget. Like, sometimes people say like, oh, I thrifted this dress, or I thrifted this thing, and the dress was like $49. And I'm like, girl, that is not a thrift. No, that is like paying full price at like Macy's or something. I don't know. So I don't want to do that to my audience. I'm going to share realistic things. And if something is more pricey, I'm gonna definitely be upfront about it. Like, yo, so this was like $50, and $50 might not sound like a lot to some people, but it depends on what it is. But to me, I feel like $50 can be a lot depending on what it is. So stay tuned for those types of things. Right now we're working on like DIY projects in addition to unpacking, and that's some stuff that I kind of want to share on here, because again, I like to share tips on ways that you can streamline processes and make life a little bit more easy, a little bit more simple. But I'm very excited that this is our first house together, and this is where we want to start and raise our family. And for me, it means so much because I didn't grow up in a house, I never lived in a house. I was raised by a single mom, and so we lived in an apartment all my life, and never had a backyard. Lived in the inner city in a downtown area, and never got the feel of like living in a neighborhood and growing up in a neighborhood. Although I did have friends and we would go bike riding, but I feel like living in a house is very different when you are a child and you're growing up. And so I'm very, very thankful that I can be able to provide this for my future children. And even though my mom and I, she was a single mom and we lived in an apartment, it was definitely home. It was definitely home. It wasn't a house, but it was definitely home. And we have lots of good memories living in the apartment together, and being able to go downtown and go to like the festivals that were free, and But there were also a lot of hard times as well. I remember there were times where we would be without things like food and sometimes electricity, and we live in a cold state, so sometimes there'd be winters where we would have to sleep in our coats. And those are stories for another time, but just to give context of the thankfulness that I have to actually have a home that I get to call my own, that is actually my home. And not only that, but it's a place where my husband and I can raise our kids and they can experience, having their own home that they get to call their own. And so that's something that just means so much to me. And I've been really, pondering on it and just thanking God for this, that He's blessed us with, for all that He's blessed us with. And sometimes because we are so busy, I have to be intentional about reflecting and thinking about it. But there are moments where I wake up and we have like this huge backyard, just amazing, just answered prayer. And I just look out the backyard and look out the window in the morning and just think like, wow, God has blessed us with this. Like, we don't see neighbors. we have like all this, we can see some neighbors in certain parts of the windows, but like this particular window is just, everything is ours, and the grass and the fields and the trees, and it's just such a blessing. And I thank God. I just praise God. And the way we got this house is just a blessing, because initially we made an offer on this house and it got rejected because somebody else made a similar offer to us, but they had an extra incentive. And so naturally the seller decided to go with that person, which makes sense. I mean, if you're trying to sell a home and get a profit, you're going to take the best offer. And so we just continue to move on and move forward and say, okay, well, whatever God has for us. And we're in prayer, and we saw some other houses and just didn't work out, or some of them we just weren't crazy about, or they just had things that we didn't like. Some things we liked, some things we didn't like. And then we got a call from our real estate agent, and she reached out to us saying that the owner's real estate agent had reached out to her saying that the offer that they had initially accepted fell through, and they remembered us, that we wanted to make an offer on, or that we made an offer on the house, and wanted to know if we were still interested. And we definitely were. So it's just a blessing the way it worked out, because when we first walked through this house, we didn't even need to see it twice. We made an offer immediately. So very thankful that we were given the opportunity to be able to be owners of this home. There's so much happening, so many things going on, but I just praise God. And I thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the journey. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I'm definitely going to be sharing more things and updates. Things that I learned as far as in DIY, like currently we're building shelves sort of like in painting for like a linen closet, hanging curtains. We want to create like this little library area where the mudroom is, but we want to turn that into a library. So there's so many different things that we want to do to really bring our vision to life and create the home that we want to, call our own, and a home that's very us. But along the way, we like saving money, and we like to really just customize things towards how we move through a space. For me, it's very important to not only have something that's cute, but something that's functional. Like a couch is great, but if it has storage, that's even better. Or like a coffee table, if it has storage, that's even better. And like, just how we move through a space. So when I learn things, I like to share them with other people, because a lot of times when I'm learning something, it's like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't know that before. And I think other people are probably the same. So I'm definitely going to be sharing some of that on here to help you guys, and also glean from you all as well. Like if you have tips or ideas that you want to share, because I am definitely not an expert. I just really enjoy decorating. So, but that won't be the only form of content here. There'll be other things too, tips and things I share along the way. But again, thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope that you are blessed by these videos, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye.